Hey friends, hi! Josie Lewis here. Today I'm going to talk to you about what supplies I used when I'm working with resin. I've been working with resin for about 10 years and I have used a lot of different materials and resin products. I've also made every single mistake you can make with resin twice. So I would like to extend to you everything I know. Don't worry, it won't take too long. And I'm going to start by talking about the resin that I use. I really am into art resin. It is a product that is made by artists for artists. It is zero VOC, which means it doesn't have any harmful odors, and it's low toxicity, which is nice. With some resins are just terrible. You couldn't even use them in your house. Also, it performs very well as far as UV stability, so it doesn't yellow the same rate as other resins, and there's some independent tests about that are remarkable. So since obviously you want to preserve your art and you don't want it to yellow, art resin is an amazing way to go. Resin itself, super simple. You get it in a two-part, in the consistency of honey. You mix them together, equal parts. I don't have any cups here, but I use a clear disposable cup to make sure that my amounts are the same. Pour them together in, a plastic bowl that I buy at the dollar store because they do get all yucky and sticky and gross, and then I can throw them away. So I mean, I can get a lot of use out of this, but it's nice that it's only $1 because then I can get another one. Same thing goes with my mixing tools. Dollar store spatulas are the best because, like you can tell with this one, I've used it quite a bit and it's already getting all gunky with the resin. For a good time, you can peel the resin off your gear. That's always fun for a couple hours. But you could also just throw it away and spend $1 and get a new spatula. When I am in the studio, I always use plastic. I pretty much coat plastic on everything, every surface that I'm going to use, including the floor, my surface, under my mixing bowl, everything. I'd cover myself in plastic if I could. Because resin, if it gets on stuff, it's going to be on there forever. If you get resin on something like your skin or your shoe or something and you don't want it there, when it's still wet, you can use rubbing alcohol. So I keep some isopropyl alcohol around for cleanup occasionally, especially if I get it like on my hands for some reason, which normally I wouldn't because I'm always going to be using gloves. I buy them in bulk, big boxes of gloves, because sometimes in any given pour I will change my gloves 10 times. For whatever reason, I bought mediums, which is ridiculous because I have abnormally small hands, like freakishly small hands, but the mediums are like cutting off my circulation. So I need large gloves. Who knew? Gloves are a must. You do not want the resin on your hands. When you are mixing, you need to mix for a full 4 minutes. I mix slow, scraping the sides. And I don't like whisk, you might be able to stir it a little bit faster, but I think it incorporates bubbles into the mix. So slow mixing, 4 minutes. Number one error that people make is they don't mix it enough. Number two error that people make is they make the wrong ratios, like it's not a perfect 1-to-1. Number three error is that the temperature isn't right. Resin just needs to be basic room temperature. I have a spray booth, but my studio can be cold here in Minnesota when it's 50 below zero. So I will temp my resin up by dropping it into warm water a half an hour or so before I work, just to get it up to about 70 degrees. 70 to 75 makes a nice working temperature. It's easier to stir, and you're not likely to get, sometimes if the resin's cold, you can get little tiny bubbles. So you want to make sure your resin is a good working temperature. Also, you need a torch. I like the torch with the automatic trigger. Fire. It's amazing. You can use a heat gun. The problem with the heat gun is that it will tend to blow air and dust and whatever is around into your resin, and nobody likes dust in their resin. Also, what I understand about the torch, the reason why it will pull the bubbles up out of your resin is that it's carbon dioxide, not heat. I think it's a combination, but you're not going to get the carbon dioxide from the heat gun. So I don't love the heat gun. I also sometimes use a mask. Art resin, as I've been saying, is safe, but since I, work with resin multiple times a week, I don't want anything funky building up in my body. So I use extra, cautions, such as the mask. I will say with the mask, it's in a plastic bag here, because if you use these vapor compound masks, the cartridges start to lose their efficiency as soon as you take them out of the original packaging, and the only way to preserve them is to get them in a zero oxygen environment. So when I'm done using them, I put them in the bag and press out all the air so that they just last a little longer. I do change the cartridges every couple weeks or so just to be extra safe. If you are interested in making a Petri, the thing you need to know, or anything else that you cast into a mold, the thing you need to know is that you're going to want 100% silicone molds. Interestingly, most of the molds are in bakeware if you're shopping online or whatever. So like Amazon.com, tons of different kinds of silicone bakeware, different shapes, different sizes, almost anything you want. A lot of people use silicone molds to make soap casts and different things. So a lot of those things are interchangeable, and you can find them in little skulls or in little hearts, or certainly in round cake pans. This is an 8.5-inch round cake pan, works just beautifully. What you want is that flexibility, because you kind of need to like peel out your resin out of the mold. Like I said, tons of different sizes. I do not use a mold release. A mold release, I found, leaves a haze on what otherwise would be a perfect glassy surface from the interior of the mold. By the way, you want your interior of the mold to be glassy. I have bought molds before that had like a slightly matte surface, and of course that was the surface that the resin would take on as soon as I popped it out of the mold. And since I want it to be glassy and shiny and beautiful, you need a glassy and shiny mold. They don't last forever. I figure I get about 20 pours out of a mold. Finally, last but not least, you are going to need some ink. And for the Petris, you need alcohol ink. I found several different brands. Pinata is one. I don't know if you can see it, but there it is, Pinata and Tim Holtz. They usually come in these little 1/2-ounce bottles in various colors. And I don't think there's any difference between them. They come in slightly different colors between the two brands. I think the Tim Holtz is a little bit more expensive. It usually comes in packs of 3s. If you can find a sale on them somewhere, it can be cost effective. The Pinata comes in a 4-ounce offering. You can buy that on Amazon and on some other art supply stores. And because with the Petri making process you need a lot of white, I for sure will buy a 4-ounce white. Okay, well, that pretty much sums up all the materials that I use when I work with resin and when I do my Petri pours. If you're interested in an easy way to source this stuff, you can go to my store on Amazon. I don't sell it myself, but I buy so much stuff on Amazon that I put everything in one store to make it easy for you. So you can check that out. There's a link down below. And most of the stuff here is there. If it's not there, then it's a common hardware store thing that you should be able to pick up, wherever in your city. Thank you so much for watching. Something that you could do that would really help me out is to give me a subscribe, and I'll see you back here for more tutorials. Thanks. Bye.